For the first time in generations, Earth exhaled a breath of relief. Cities that once lay in ruins were now bustling with life, skyscrapers shimmering under the bright sun. Where shadows of war had long lingered, the peace treaty with the Zalari had been signed just weeks earlier, a historic accord that promised to end decades of hostility and bloodshed between two civilizations that had once considered each other mortal enemies. President Naomi Chen stood at the podium in the United Earth Assembly, her eyes scanning the crowd that included diplomats, military leaders, and citizens from all corners of the planet. Today, we turn a page in history, she said, her voice steady and resolute. The war has tested us, pushed us to our limits, but now, we choose cooperation over conflict, unity over division. We choose peace. The applause that followed was thunderous. Across the galaxy, news transmissions carried her words, and hope stirred in the hearts of millions, humans and aliens alike. Yet beneath the celebration, shadows of doubt lingered. Many remembered the horrors of war, the shattered colonies, the lives lost in space battles, the betrayals and broken promises. Peace was fragile, a delicate thread woven through years of distrust. Commander Aria Morales stood silently in the back of the assembly hall, her sharp gaze fixed on the president. As one of Earth's most decorated military officers, she had seen the war from every angle, on the front lines, in the strategy rooms, and in the hearts of those left behind. The treaty was a triumph, yes, but Aria knew all too well that peace was not won in speeches. It had to be earned every day. In the weeks that followed, Earth's transformation became visible. Spaceports reopened with new traffic as traders and diplomats from the Zalari arrived. Scientists collaborated on joint research projects, focusing on clean energy and planetary restoration. Schools taught children about the past war, but emphasized the value of understanding and cooperation. One such collaboration was the Terra Zalari Research Initiative, where human and Zalari scientists worked side by side to develop technologies that could heal damaged ecosystems and improve life across multiple worlds. Dr. Ellen Voss, a leading Earth biologist, often spoke of the project as a symbol of what peace could create: growth, not destruction. But even as the world celebrated, whispers of unease drifted through intelligence channels. Remote human colonies on the outskirts of known space reported strange disruptions, unexplained power failures, mysterious ships detected but never identified, and communications mysteriously severed. Aria received her first report one evening. While reviewing star charts aboard the orbital command center, the colonies were far-flung, isolated, but vital. If they were under threat, it could mean the fragile peace was already cracking. She convened a meeting with Earth's intelligence chief, Director Rami Takashi. These incidents don't match any known Zalari patterns, Rami explained, tracing unfamiliar energy signatures. It feels like someone wants us to think it's them, but we're not sure. Could it be a rogue faction? Aria asked. Rami nodded gravely. Possibly, or something else entirely. We need to investigate quietly before jumping to conclusions. As days passed, the attacks grew bolder. A remote mining colony lost all contact after a sudden explosion destroyed its communications. Hooray! An unarmed research vessel was damaged in an ambush by ships that vanished before reinforcements arrived. Earth's leaders debated their response. Many urged caution. They did not want to shatter the peace that so many had fought for, but Aria argued that preparedness was essential. We cannot wait for the enemy to strike again while we hope for peace. We must be ready to defend ourselves. The government agreed to strengthen planetary defenses and launch reconnaissance missions to uncover the source of the attacks. Earth's fleet was put on high alert, with patrols extending further into the frontier. Meanwhile, humanity's citizens wrestled with mixed emotions. The wounds of war were still fresh, and the desire for peace warred against the fear that violence could return at any moment. Families prayed, soldiers trained, and leaders held their breath, hoping that diplomacy would hold. One evening, as Aria watched the stars from the command center's observation deck, she felt the weight of the moment. The galaxy was at a crossroads between the hope of peace and the shadow of war. Her hand rested on the console, ready to command, ready to fight if necessary, because they wanted peace, not war. But when the enemy returned, Earth would have no choice but to strike back. The peace Earth had worked so hard to build was beginning to crack. Reports from the outer colonies had become impossible to ignore. Stealthy attacks struck without warning, mining stations crippled, supply convoys vanished, and communication outposts suddenly went silent. Each incident was swift, surgical, and left no clear trace of the perpetrators. The Zoleri had maintained their silence, officially denying any involvement and reaffirming their commitment to peace. But Earth's leaders knew better. Commander Aria Morales stood in the briefing room aboard the Resolute, Earth's flagship patrol cruiser. Her eyes narrowed as she scanned the latest satellite images, ghostly blips in the void. Where ships should have been, her tactical officers exchanged grim looks. Enemy ships struck at the Clater mining outpost again last night, reported Lieutenant Kieran Das. They disabled the defense grid within seconds and disappeared before reinforcements could arrive. Arya tapped the screen. These attacks are coordinated to be random pirates or rogue groups, whoever they are. They have access to technology that rivals the Zoleri stealth systems. This isn't just a minor threat, it's an orchestrated campaign. Director Rami Takashi, standing beside her, added, "Our sensors picked up encrypted transmissions similar to those used by the Zoleri military during the war, but the signal patterns don't match any official Zoleri frequencies. It's as if someone is trying to imitate them or frame them," Arya said quietly. "Someone wants us to believe the Zoleri are back to their old ways, breaking the peace." The room fell silent, the weight of suspicion settling heavily on everyone. "Diplomatic channels are pushing for restraint," Rami continued, "but the public is growing restless. There's talk of fear turning into anger, and anger into demands for retaliation." Arya's jaw tightened. "If we don't act decisively, this could spiral out of control, but if we strike blindly, we risk reigniting the war we all want to avoid." That evening, Arya convened a secure meeting with Earth's top advisors and Zoleri envoys. The atmosphere was tense, every word measured. Ambassador Thalen, the Zoleri's chief diplomat, spoke first. "Our people desire peace as much as yours. These attacks undermine everything we have worked toward. We have no interest in war. But these attacks continue," Arya replied, "and they use your technology. How do you explain that?" Thalen's eyes darkened. "We are investigating. We suspect a rogue faction within our military elements who refuse to accept peace and act on their own. We do not condone their actions." Arya exchanged a glance with Rami. "A rogue faction inside your military? That raises more questions than answers." The Zoleri ambassador nodded. "We will cooperate fully to identify the culprits, but we ask Earth to exercise patience. Patience is in short supply," Arya said bluntly, "especially among those who have lost loved ones." The meeting ended without resolution, but both sides agreed to a joint task force to investigate. Earth and Zoleri intelligence operatives would work side by side, a fragile step toward rebuilding trust. Days later, Arya led a reconnaissance mission to the outskirts of the Clater system, where the latest attack had occurred. The desolate asteroid belt bore scars deep gouged from plasma fire, twisted metal wreckage floating silently in the void. Her team deployed drones to scan the area. Amid the debris, they discovered something chilling: untraceable data modules hidden in the wreckage, containing encrypted files referencing a third party and unknown force orchestrating chaos. From the shadows, back aboard the Resolute, Arya reviewed the decrypted fragments. The evidence suggested a secret cabal manipulating both Earth and the Zoleri, aiming to keep the galaxy locked in perpetual conflict for their own gain. The revelation stunned the command staff. "We're not just fighting remnants of war," Arya said. "We're up against a deeper enemy, one that thrives on division and destruction." As the Resolute prepared for further missions, the stakes became clearer. Earth's choice was no longer simply to defend itself or retaliate, it was to uncover the truth behind the attacks before the fragile peace shattered completely. Yet the shadows were growing bolder. The enemy was watching, waiting for Earth's next move, and when they struck again, Earth would be ready. The galactic peace Earth had hoped for teetered on the edge of collapse. Commander Aria Morales stood at the helm of the Resolute, her eyes fixed on the holographic star map flickering before her. The newly uncovered evidence of a hidden enemy, manipulating both sides, unsettled the council, but also steeled her resolve. The Earth Assembly convened an emergency session. Voices echoed in the Grand Chamber, some pleading for calm, others demanding decisive action. "We cannot wait any longer," Arya declared when called to speak. "Our enemies operate in the shadows, sabotaging peace and endangering every colony. We must strengthen our defenses and be prepared to strike if necessary." President Naomi Chen listened carefully. The weight of leadership pressed upon her, balancing the desperate hope for peace with the harsh reality of ongoing threats. "We want peace," she said firmly, "but we cannot ignore the possibility that war may return." Our people deserve security. The decision was unanimous but bittersweet. Earth's military forces were placed on heightened alert, space fleets were mobilized, and advanced weapons systems were reactivated. Civilian sectors braced for the possibility of conflict, while soldiers like Arya prepared for battle once more. Yet not everyone embraced the call to arms. Across cities and colonies, protests echoed the voices of those who remembered the well. The devastation war had brought. Peace activists urged restraint, hoping that diplomacy and investigation could still prevent bloodshed. Arya understood their fears, but could not ignore the facts. The attacks were escalating. The Shadow faction's technology had already outpaced many of Earth's defenses, and if they struck again without warning, the consequences could be catastrophic. On board the Resolute, her crew worked tirelessly to upgrade ship systems and develop new strategies. Tactical simulations ran around the clock. Lieutenant Kieran Das, her trusted officer, studied enemy patterns. They're evolving, he reported. Each attack becomes faster and more precise. They're testing our limits. Arya nodded grimly. Then we must be ready to push back harder. One evening, as Earth's twin moons rose over the planet's horizon, Arya received an urgent communication from the outer colonies. Another attack had occurred this time, on a vital supply convoy carrying medical equipment and food to struggling settlements. The convoy had sent a distress signal before going silent. Arya assembled her strike team. This attack is more than sabotage, she said. It's a message. They want to show us they can disrupt life itself. Her second in command, Captain Jace Marin, frowned. We've been cautious so far. If we retaliate, the whole galaxy could spiral into war again. We have no choice, Arya replied. If we do nothing, more innocent lives will be lost. The decision was made. Earth would launch a targeted strike against the Shadow faction's suspected bases. It was a move calculated to defend rather than provoke, but in war, intentions often mattered less than consequences. As the Resolute and its fleet prepared to depart, Arya reflected on the years of bloodshed behind her and the uncertain path ahead. She thought of the families torn apart, the children who had grown up hearing stories of war instead of peace, and the fragile hope still flickering in the hearts of billions. The countdown began. Engines hummed to life, lights blinked on consoles, and humanity took its first step back into the fires of conflict, not because it wanted war, but because it had no choice. The battle for peace was about to begin. The void of space was eerily silent as the Resolute and its fleet slipped into the outer reaches of the Vorath system, the suspected stronghold of the Shadow faction. Commander Arya Morale stood on the bridge, eyes sharp and heart steady. Years of training had prepared her for this moment, but nothing could erase the weight of responsibility pressing down on her shoulders. Enemy vessels detected, Lieutenant Kieran Das reported, his fingers flying across the tactical console. Signature matches the Shadow faction stealth tech, much more advanced than we anticipated. The ships emerged from the darkness like ghosts, sleek and menacing. They moved with ruthless precision, striking before the fleet could fully react. Shields up, raise all energy to forward weapons, Arya commanded. The first salvo lit up the void, plasma bolts streaking across the blackness. The Shadow ships twisted and dodged, their cloaking devices flickering as they absorbed and returned fire. Despite the Resolute's advanced weaponry and the fleet's discipline, the enemy's technology was a deadly match. One of Earth's frigates took a direct hit, explosions ripping through its hull. Alarms blared, and crew members scrambled to contain the damage. Focus fire on their lead vessel, Arya ordered, eyes fixed on the swirling chaos. The battle was intense, a blur of light and sound, of calculated strikes and desperate maneuvers. It was unlike any conflict Earth had faced before, faster, smarter, and more unforgiving. Amidst the chaos, Arya's voice cut through the tension. Maintain formation, protect the supply ships, Lieutenant Kieran reported. Enemy reinforcements incoming from multiple vectors. The battle grew fiercer as the Shadow faction deployed new tactics, decoys, electronic jamming, and coordinated swarm attacks. Earth's fleet fought valiantly, but losses mounted. Suddenly, the flagship sensors picked up a massive energy surge, a weapon charge unlike anything they'd seen. Brace for impact, Arya shouted. A devastating beam tore through the Resolute shields, sending shockwaves through the ship. Systems flickered and failed, and the bridge trembled violently. Damage control teams rushed to stabilize critical systems while Arya held the command steady. Divert all power to engines, get us out of their firing range. As the Resolute limped away, other fleet ships rallied, using coordinated counterattacks to force the enemy to retreat. The battle ended with heavy casualties on both sides. The black expanse littered with drifting wreckage back on the bridge. The crew was exhausted, but resolute. Arya's gaze swept over the damage reports. The enemy had surprised them with their technology and ferocity, but Earth's spirit had not broken. This was just the beginning, she said quietly. We've learned their strength and their weaknesses. News of the battle spread quickly across Earth and allied colonies. Citizens gathered around holo screens, anxious but proud of the defenders who stood between them and chaos. President Naomi Chen addressed the public. Our brave soldiers faced a ruthless enemy with courage and resolve. Though the battle was costly, it proved our determination to defend peace. We will rebuild, and we will stand stronger. Behind the scenes, scientists and engineers worked tirelessly to analyze the enemy's technology, seeking ways to counter it. Dr. Ellen Voss and her team developed new shield algorithms and adaptive weapon systems, turning captured data into hope. Yet even as they prepared for the next confrontation, new questions gnawed at Arya. Who supplied the Shadow faction with such advanced technology? How deep did this conspiracy run? In the quiet moments between alerts, Arya spoke with Captain Jace Marin. This isn't just a fight for survival anymore, she said. It's a battle for the soul of the galaxy. Jace nodded. And if we don't win, no one will. The war had escalated, but humanity's resolve had only grown stronger. The enemy had returned, but Earth was no longer the prey. It was a force that would strike back with everything it had. The aftermath of the battle weighed heavily on Earth's leaders and citizens alike. While the fleet repaired and rebuilt, Commander Arya Morales pressed deeper into the mystery of the Shadow faction. The question no one could answer haunted her. Who was behind the relentless attacks? In the secure confines of the United Earth Intelligence Agency, Arya joined a team of analysts and operatives working around the clock. The fragments recovered from the destroyed shadow ships offered a rare glimpse into their operations, encrypted files, intercepted communications, and data logs that hinted at a larger, more insidious force. One breakthrough came from a decrypted message intercepted from the Shadow faction's commanders. It referenced a hidden organization known only as the Consortium, an ancient alien cabal manipulating conflicts across the galaxy. For their own benefit, Director Rami Takashi laid out the implications in a tense briefing. The Consortium is not just a rogue group or a faction within the Zalari military. They are a shadow network that profits from chaos, fueling wars, controlling resources, and pulling strings from the background. Arya frowned. If they want war, why disguise themselves as the Zalari? Because the Zalari peace treaty threatens their influence, Rami explained. A united galaxy means less opportunity for the Consortium's manipulations. The revelation shook the room. Earth had been fighting a hidden war all along, a war that extended far beyond the borders of any known conflict. With this new knowledge, Arya proposed a daring plan to infiltrate the Consortium's operations and gather concrete evidence that could unite Earth and the Zalari against their common enemy. The mission was risky. The Consortium was rumored to have agents embedded in multiple governments and militaries, their reach extending into the highest levels of power. Still, Arya volunteered to lead the covert operation. Her team was small but skilled experts in espionage, cyber warfare, and combat. Among them was Lieutenant Karen Das, whose analytical mind had already helped decrypt crucial data, and Captain Jace Marin, whose experience in space combat would prove invaluable. They departed aboard the stealth cruiser Vigilant, equipped with advanced cloaking technology and the latest surveillance tools. Their target was a secret facility hidden within an asteroid field. In the uncharted Viridian sector, a suspected hub for Consortium operations, the journey was tense, every moment shadowed by the risk of discovery. Upon arrival, the Vigilant slipped through enemy sensors, weaving between massive asteroids coated with mining installations and electronic jamming devices. Arya led her team through the labyrinth of tunnels inside the asteroid, careful to avoid patrols and automated defenses. They found evidence of the Consortium's influence, vaults filled with stolen technology, encrypted records of weapons shipments, and files revealing manipulative schemes designed to pit species against one another. Among the data was a chilling dossier, plans for orchestrated attacks designed to reignite hostilities not only between Earth and the Zalari, but throughout key regions of the galaxy. It's worse than we thought, Kieran whispered. They want endless war. The team downloaded the files, knowing this evidence could change the course of history. But as they prepared to leave, alarms blared. The consortium's security forces had discovered their intrusion. A fierce firefight erupted in the narrow tunnels, energy blasts ricocheting off the rocky walls. Arya's team fought with skill and determination, their unity a shield against overwhelming odds. Move to the extraction point, Arya commanded, covering her team as they pushed forward. Despite casualties, the team reached their ship and fled the facility just as explosions rocked the asteroid. Back aboard the Vigilant, Arya reviewed the stolen files. The consortium's manipulation was systematic and deep-rooted, extending into governments, corporations, and even some rebel groups. Sharing this intelligence with the Zalari became imperative. Only by exposing the true enemy could Earth and its former adversaries hope to unite. As the Vigilant set course for Earth, Arya stared out at the stars. The war was no longer simply between two civilizations. It was a battle against a hidden force that thrived on division and destruction. And humanity had found its enemy. The Vigilant hurled through space toward Earth, carrying not only Commander Arya Morales and her team, but also the weight of a revelation that could change the fate of the galaxy. The consortium and insidious cabal thriving on chaos and manipulation had been exposed. Now, the question was how to turn this knowledge into action. As the ship approached Earth's orbital command station, Arya prepared to brief the United Earth Assembly and the Zalari Council simultaneously. The atmosphere was tense. For months, old wounds had simmered beneath the surface, and mutual suspicion lingered despite the fragile peace. Yet now, faced with a common enemy far more dangerous than either could have imagined, the opportunity to unite beckoned. In the Grand Chamber of the Assembly, President Naomi Chen stood beside Ambassador Thalen of the Zalari, the two leaders exchanging solemn nods. Arya stepped forward, her voice clear and resolute. We have uncovered a force operating in the shadows of the consortium that profits from war and division. She began. They have manipulated conflicts between our peoples and others, orchestrating attacks to shatter peace and maintain chaos. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. The Zalari envoys listened carefully, their faces reflecting a mixture of shock and determination. Arya continued, we retrieved evidence from their hidden bases documents, detailing planned attacks designed to ignite galaxy-wide war. If left unchecked, they will destroy all hope for lasting peace. Ambassador Thalen's voice carried through the chamber. The Zalari Council concurs. We have seen signs of the consortium's influence within our own ranks and will cooperate fully to dismantle their operations. The assembly erupted into debate. Some members feared escalating involvement, wary of opening new fronts in an already volatile galaxy. Others argued that ignoring the consortium was a luxury Earth and its allies could no longer afford. President Chen raised her hand, commanding attention. This is no longer just Earth's fight or the Zalari's. It is a battle for the future of every world. We must form a united coalition, a task force dedicated to rooting out the consortium and preventing further destruction. The resolution passed, marking a historic moment. Former enemies would now stand shoulder to shoulder. In the weeks that followed, the coalition mobilized. Intelligence agencies pooled resources, sharing intercepted communications and uncovering hidden agents embedded across numerous planets. Joint military exercises sharpened coordination between Earth and Zalari forces, forging trust through action. Arya took command of the coalition's rapid response unit, a diverse team of soldiers, spies, and diplomats. Their mission was clear: strike swiftly and decisively against consortium cells wherever they surfaced. Training was rigorous, blending Earth's tactical doctrines with Zalari strategies. Cultural barriers began to dissolve as camaraderie grew among the fighters. Arya watched as soldiers from both species learned to trust each other not just as allies, but as partners united by a shared cause. One evening, during a briefing aboard the coalition's flagship Harmony, Arya spoke to her team. The consortium thrives on secrecy and manipulation, she said. Our strength lies in unity and transparency. Together, we will break their hold on the galaxy. The mood was somber, but hopeful. Meanwhile, diplomatic channels worked tirelessly to bring other civilizations into the coalition. Many had suffered under the consortium's manipulations and were eager to join a force committed to peace and stability. As the coalition grew, so did its reach and influence, but the consortium was not idle. Reports came in of sabotage, assassination attempts, and propaganda designed to undermine the alliance. The battle would be fought not only in space, but in minds and hearts across the stars. Yet Earth and the Zolari held firm. Their shared history of conflict linked gravity to their resolve, reminding all involved of the cost of division and the value of cooperation. For Commander Aria Morales, the stakes had never been higher. She understood that victory would require more than weapons and strategy. It would demand courage, sacrifice, and unwavering faith in the power of unity. As the Coalition's fleet prepared for its first coordinated offensive against the Consortium's strongholds, Aria gazed out at the endless stars, a symbol about the vast challenges ahead and the hope that, together, they could overcome. The enemy wanted war, but Earth and its allies wanted peace, and this time, they would fight to keep it. The Coalition's fleet hung like a constellation of resolve in the depths of the Azari sector. The heart of the Consortium's influence, Commander Aria Morales stood on the bridge of the Harmony, her eyes tracing the enemy stronghold on the tactical display. The moment for action had arrived. Months of planning and intelligence gathering had revealed the location of the Consortium's largest base, an asteroid fortress shielded by an array of cloaking devices and automated defenses. It was a fortress built to withstand assault and silence rebellion, but the Coalition was prepared. Deploy stealth probes, Aria ordered. We need to map every turret, every minefield, every patrol route. Lieutenant Kieran Das manipulated the controls with practiced ease. Probes launched. We're picking up multiple shield generators and heavy weapons emplacements. Their defenses are formidable. Aria nodded. That we strike smart, coordinated, precise, and overwhelming. The fleet divided into squadrons, slipping through the asteroid belt under cover of darkness. Fighters darted like shadows, while frigates and cruisers took up strategic positions to provide support fire. Target their shield generators first, Aria said. Without shields, their fortress will be vulnerable. The first wave moved in, plasma cannons blazing. Explosions erupted as the shield generators sparked and died one by one. The Consortium's defenses faltered, but their retaliation was swift and fierce. Energy beams tore through the void, cutting down Coalition fighters. Automated turrets swiveled and fired with lethal accuracy. Captain Jace Marin led the fighter squadrons in daring dogfights, weaving through enemy fire and drawing attention away from the larger ships. Keep pushing, Jace radioed. We can't let them regroup. Aria coordinated fleet movements, her voice calm and commanding. The battle raged for hours, a fierce dance of light and shadow in the emptiness of space. Finally, with the fortress's shields down and key weapons systems disabled, Coalition boarding teams launched assault shuttles. Aria led one of the squads, her pulse steady despite the adrenaline pumping through her veins. Inside the asteroid base, the air was thick with tension. The corridors were lined with Consortium soldiers, fanatics loyal to their cause and willing to fight to the death. The boarding party moved swiftly, neutralizing threats and securing control rooms. Aria's team found the command center, where data terminals revealed critical information about the Consortium's wider network. Download everything, Aria ordered. We need this to dismantle their operations across the galaxy. Suddenly, alarms blared. Reinforcements were arriving. Hold your positions, Aria shouted. We can't lose this ground now. The battle intensified inside the cramped tunnels. Aria's team fought with precision, their unity forged through shared purpose. After hours of brutal combat, the Consortium's forces began to falter. Key leaders surrendered or fled deeper into the asteroid's labyrinth. Aria accessed a secure terminal and sent the stolen data back to the Harmony. The files contained names, locations, and plans, a treasure trove for Coalition intelligence. With the base secured, the Coalition fleet regrouped. The victory was a turning point, a demonstration that the Consortium was not invincible. News of the assault spread quickly, inspiring other systems to rise against the Shadow Cabal. Allies once hesitant now rallied with renewed vigor. Yet, even in triumph, Aria remained vigilant. The Consortium's influence was deep and resilient. There were still many battles ahead. In a quiet moment on the Harmony's observation deck, Aria stood beside Ambassador Thalen. The Zolari diplomat regarded her thoughtfully. You have done more than defeat an enemy, Thalen said. You have rekindled hope. Aria nodded. Hope is what will carry us through, but we must remain united. Thalen smiled faintly. The galaxy will watch us. Your leadership is a beacon not just for Earth and the Zolari, but for all who seek peace. As the Coalition prepared for the next campaign, Aria reflected on how far they had come from suspicion and fear to alliance and strength. The enemy wanted to keep the galaxy divided. Instead, Earth and its allies had turned the tide. The battle for peace was far from over, but now, the future looked brighter. The Coalition fleet returned to Earth's orbit amid cheers and celebrations. That echoed across continents and colonies. The long shadow cast by the Consortium had begun to lift, revealing a path toward healing and unity. Commander Aria Morales stood on the bridge of the Harmony, watching the planet's blue-green surface swirl beneath her, a symbol of resilience, and hoped out the decisive victory at the asteroid fortress was more than a military triumph. It was a turning point in the galaxy's history. The Consortium's secret network had been shattered, their agents exposed and captured, and their schemes unraveled. Earth and the Zolari, once bitter enemies, now stood as the foundation of a new era. In the United Earth Assembly, President Naomi Chan addressed the assembly and the millions watching through holobroadcast. Today, we mark the end of a long struggle against those who sought to divide us. The courage and unity displayed by our coalitions have forged a future where peace is not just a dream, but a promise. Ambassador Thalen of the Zolari Council stood beside her, his presence a testament to the newfound alliance. We have learned that peace requires vigilance and cooperation. Together, we will build a galaxy where trust replaces suspicion and hope triumphs over fear. Despite the celebrations, Aria knew the work was far from over. The scars of war remained, and rebuilding trust among countless civilizations would take time and effort. She convened with coalition leaders aboard the Harmony to plan the next phase: reconstruction, diplomacy, and monitoring for any lingering threats. Lieutenant Kieran Das presented data on Consortium remnants. Small cells remain scattered. We must continue our efforts to root them out before they can regroup. Aria agreed. This coalition must endure. Our unity is our greatest weapon against those who would threaten peace. At the heart of this new mission was a commitment to understanding and respect. Cultural exchanges, joint scientific endeavors, and shared governance initiatives blossomed across worlds. Aria found herself mentoring young officers from diverse backgrounds, inspiring them with the story of how humanity and the Zolari overcame their differences to face a greater threat together. One evening, on the Harmony's observation deck, she stood beside Jace Marin, her trusted friend and comrade. "We did it," Jace said quietly. Against all odds, Aria smiled. "We did. But peace is a journey, not a destination." They gazed out at the stars, each a reminder of the vastness of the galaxy and the potential for both conflict and harmony. Back on Earth, families reunited, cities rebuilt, and the memory of war began to fade, not erased, but transformed into lessons of resilience and unity. The message Earth sent to the galaxy was clear: peace was the choice they had made, and they would defend it with every ounce of their strength and spirit. In quiet moments, Aria reflected on the words Earth had spoken when the fires of war first engulfed the galaxy. This was your choice, not ours. Now, those words resonated with a new meaning, a declaration that humanity had chosen peace, forged it through struggle, and stood ready to protect it. The galaxy was vast, filled with mysteries and challenges yet to come, but Earth and its allies faced the future with unwavering hope and determination, because they had learned that true strength lay not in domination, but in unity. And as the stars shone brightly above, humanity's final words echoed across the cosmos: "We choose peace, we choose hope, and we will stand together always."